about full range movement versus quarter movements, meaning that you're only moving the weight a quarter of the way, whether you're doing it from the bottom position or the top position. And what part of that range is the best range for developing muscle? Now, all human bodies are pretty much basically the same when it comes down to moving and pushing things. We all move and push things in the same manner. Just some of us activate more muscles doing certain movements than others do. But basically we're the same. We're all the same. Okay? With that out of the way, now we're gonna talking about it's gonna always probably be about the basic movements, because everybody's always impressed with how much you can bench press, squat, and deadlift. For some reason, that's symbolism for strength, as far as a lot of men are concerned. So we're gonna go with that right there. Now we're gonna start with the bench press. What is the best range for the bench press as far as building a decent chest? And I've looked at a lot of bodybuilders over time, and from my time, it has moved from full range movements to almost lockout, back down to touch the chest when it comes down to the bench press. That's the way it was done, back when I was younger. Now the movement have moved from the bottom position, touching the chest, to mid-range, back down to touch the chest. And then you have some like Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler pretty much never touched the chest, not often when he's bench pressing, to mid-range. And that's his movement. But the largest people that I've seen do the bench press, like Ronnie Coleman, impeccable chest. I mean, he has no weakness in his chest. He may have said that he probably would want more detail in the upper chest, but that's pretty much it. And you look at guys like Sergio Oliva. Now, these guys always work from the bottom part of the range, meaning that Ronnie Coleman would lower the weight, touch the chest, move up about a quarter of the way, and back down. And really not moving the weight really that far, even though he's a taller guy, around about 5'11". And then you're looking at guys like Sergio Oliva. He also trained the same way. To me, when I look at Sergio Oliva and Ronnie Coleman, the way they bench press is on that same level, is on that same plane. It's from the bottom of the chest to a quarter of the way out. Now, Sergio Oliva, when it came down to doing squats, his squats was always parallel to a quarter of the way up, back down to parallel to a quarter of the way up. Ronnie Coleman was a little bit below parallel, a quarter of the way up and back down. It's always these little short movements. And a lot of people criticize Ronnie Coleman for those little short movements that he did. But what they're not looking at is the quality that came from those constant tension movements that he and Sergio Oliva used. Both of them used the same movement, short, quarter of the way movements. Both of them did the same thing. And both of them were in Sergio Oliva's era, he was one of the most massive guys out there. And he was using that same technique. Ronnie Coleman, we all know, 8-time Mr. Olympia, using that same technique. So, in my opinion, that constant tension, shorter range movement, I think it's the better part of developing the most from a muscle, because it's constant tension on that muscle, which will, a lot of times, and a lot of you don't want to do that, a lot of times it would causes you to have to use lighter weights, because with that constant tension, it puts so much stress on the muscle until the muscle fatigues a lot faster. And that's something you have to get used to. But if you work out that way on a constant basis, the strength will naturally come back. So I think that's the best way to develop those muscles. And I talked about that before. Constant tension is the best way to develop muscle. And I've just given you two bodybuilders that in their era were the largest bodybuilders, and they pretty much did the same type of movements. There was the largest bodybuilder in their area, one of the largest bodybuilders in their era. And those are the movements that they use. Quarter movements from the bottom up a quarter of the way. Whether it be squats, whether it be bench press, whether it be exercises like bent over rows, because Ronnie Coleman really never stretched all the way out when it came down to bent over rows. He always had that quarter of the way movement that he did, so the muscle stayed up under tension all the time. And at the same time, by you not loading and unloading the muscle, a lot of times that will prevent you from injuring your muscle, because when you load the muscle up and you extend all the way down and relieve that tension, you got to load it back up again to pull the weight back up. And that right there is where injury will occur. So that's the best way that I think a person who's trying to develop as much size as they can is to always use that constant tension. You know, never mind the weight. I always do a weight that you can handle, that's up under constant tension, and gradually add weight back into it until you can get up to your normal poundages. But anyway, that's what I want to talk to y'all about. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. And again, I'll be talking to you later.